Hello, and welcome to Let Me Tell You a Story podcast, produced by ED Media. Today's story is from the best-selling novel, Journey to the Kingdom of Soul, written by author Everlazt. Chapter 11. What's going on? Someone asked out loud as people slowly made their way out into the main road. I don't know, but it has to be something big if Poppa Big is calling out all warriors of the Brook to come hear him speak, another man said out loud. A sense of urgency began to break up the peaceful and festive state that occupied the jungle city when their new guest arrived. Increased security was added around the front wall as big black kettles with cold black tar in them were rolled out to specially built stations. Once they were locked in place, small fires were lit underneath the kettles. Brendan walked up and down the top catwalk, barking orders as he checked every soldier's weapon that crossed his path, while the ranks of warriors moved into position to scan the forest and beyond for any approaching threats. Word quickly spread throughout the jungle city about Poppa Big summoning the people and humanos of the Brook to come hear their leader speak on the current state of their land. A calling of this importance was taken seriously by everyone in the city and prejudged as a potential threat to their land's very existence. The game arena quickly began to fill as everyone made their way up to the slow-moving lines at its front gates. The gray 5-story stone structure could seat close to 100,000 people and was the biggest building made on the southeast end of Musina. Conversation bounced around the moving crowds as the thick air of tension that was in the jungle city streets slowly began to hover over the arena. I can't remember the last time Poppa Big ever called on everyone to attend a major announcement like this, a man said as he took his seat. Me neither, and I've been in this city for decades, an old humano said as he pulled in his wings so he could sit down. In the middle of the arena field, a large platform stage held a nice array of beaticians, who steadily worked themselves up into a rhythm, slowly catching the crowd's attention. Tom-tom thumps echoed through the stone walls of the arena, as a rattling rhythm of maracas began to fill the air. Some could be heard lowly humming to the building rhythm. Back inside the main castle dining hall, Poppa Big had assembled the jungle city's most respected heads of state. It was important to inform them of what was happening on the outer walls of the Brook, before he set out to the arena to speak to the people and ready them for his course of action. Lady Light sat beside Poppa Big dressed in a dark blue gown, that flowed down to her ankles, with her hair wrapped in a dark blue cloth crown. The Queen of the Brook had a concerned look in her eyes as she held their 10-month-old son. The baby stared up into his mother's worried eyes, sucking on an ice stick, with his own look of uncertainty about his city's future. Zahara and her small retinue were also in attendance, but only as observers of the meeting, not as speakers. They sat off to the side and listened to every word spoken without disturbing the proceedings. I would like to thank everyone for coming out on such short notice. This is a very crucial time in our city's history and I feel we must address this situation head-on, and together as a family, Poppa Big stated. As he stood up, towering over his audience at the rectangular-shaped table, with his 8-foot-tall frame, he placed his large paws behind his back and continued. We have news about an approaching threat to the Brook's sovereignty. I already had a meeting with the heads of our military to prepare our army for what looks to be the Brook's biggest battle. Who is it, Poppa Big? Maurice asked. The husky man was in charge of the preservation of the Brook's water supply. The Industriarmy, Poppa Big said without blinking an eye, causing an eerie silence to blanket the room. Suddenly a low rumble of murmurs began to work themselves around the room. Poppa Big let the council members voice their opinions amongst themselves for a few moments before he cut in. I know it sounds intimidating, but a challenge of this multitude will only make us stronger, Poppa Big said, clapping his paws together for emphasis. He's right. A fight with the free world's biggest enemy will bring us together as a people, and bring us closer to the gods of song, Keenan said, causing a slow round of head nods to circulate around the room. Being the top controller of the Brook trading market, Keenan was used to having people agree with his words of wisdom at decision-making times. I agree, Diop said from his seat next to Poppa Big. For years civilizations outside of the Brook have held questions about our true identity, because of our unique integration. They don't trust that we as a people have been blessed by the gods of song. Our defiance will show our loyalty to the gods of song, and the respect we demand as a strong sovereignty that will forever be here. Is it a possibility that we at least talk to them first, before we alert the city of an imminent war with those savages on our front doorstep? Lenya asked. Being the schooling center headmistress, Lenya always thought of trying to resolve a problem before a full-scale massacre came to the city. All done for the sake of the city's innocent children. Talking with the big-boned, honey-colored mother of four, one could immediately feel the natural love she has for her people and culture. Lenya, I've thought of that. I also weighed against this long history of being a snake, and a follower of the gods of force, Poppa Big said, looking into her eyes from the head of the table, knowing how he has successfully appeared to come in peace to many other free cities, only to leave and come back unleashing death and destruction upon the people. That is not something I'm willing to put my people through, and I should hope no one in this room feels otherwise, the black bear said, letting his red eyes roam across the room. He's right, Lenya. Lady Light's gentle voice flowed across the table, catching everyone's attention. Timu's is not coming all this way to talk in peace. The stories of his quest for world dominance are real. He's coming to take what we've worked all of our lives to build, Poppa Big said, causing an exchange of worried looks to work their way around the room, as it began to sink in as to what was really at stake. To help everyone here understand the seriousness of this situation, I would like the Queen of Pakistan to please join me, Poppa Big said, holding out his paw. Sahara did not want to be directly involved in an emergency meeting of this magnitude. Especially since she wasn't from the jungle city, but who could turn down an invitation from a king as big as Poppa Big? Poppa Big took her hand, and surveyed the faces in the room. I did not want to put the young queen on the spot, but she is the only one in this room that has suffered an attack from the Industriarmy. Low murmurs rolled through the room. We did not inform the whole city about the queen's encounter, and the devastating loss of her father, the king, and his wife. And I am truly sorry we were not there to help our brothers and sisters in Pakistan defend themselves against Miss and his army, Poppa Big said, as he looked down into Zahara's eyes. She felt his sincerity was genuine, almost causing her to get misty-eyed, but she had to hold it together in front of an important audience like this. Zahara smiled, and said, "Thank you," so low, her words carried through the air like a feather. I think I speak for everyone in this land when I say, thank you for blessing us with your presence, and giving us the strength we will need to defend our land to the end, as your people did, Poppa Big said. Then he bowed down to her, causing everyone in the room to rise up out of their seats and salute Sahara with a strong round of applause. The gesture hit the young queen right in the core of her soul, and she could no longer hold it in. The tears slowly rolled down her chocolate-colored cheeks, as Poppa Big wrapped his large arms around her. Sahara knew she lived in a world that was full of wonder and sometimes unexplainable surprises. But to receive a loving hug from a big black bear had to finally top her list as her ultimate experience. Poppa Big had a strong emotional vibe Sahara found easy to connect with. Once everyone calmed, Maurice broke the silence. So what are we going to do, Poppa Big? First, we will go down to the arena and address the people of our land. We have to assure them that we will stand together in the face of this approaching enemy, and we shall accept nothing less than victory, Poppa Big said, igniting a round of head nods and words in agreement. As we speak, our brigade divisions are making the preparations necessary to secure our perimeters inside and outside of the Brook. Our leverage over them is knowing at all times when and how their army is moving, Poppa Big said. He turned to his wife and put out his paw. Lady Light took it and rose out of her seat. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time we go down to the arena, address our people and prepare them. For they will be our last line of defense. Everyone climbed out of their seats and made their way down the hallway to the front of the castle. Poppa Big turned to Sahara to ask her to join them, and was surprised to see PD the wizard step out of the shadows. What do you need me to do? PD asked, bringing a smile to Poppa Big's hairy face. I need you to put together every spell and mixture you can think of that's going to help us win this battle, Poppa Big said, feeling a sense of relief that he had one of the most powerful and talented wizards in Musina on his side. P.D. had always been a free spirit in the Brook and never joined the table at the council meetings. Instead, electing to hear about what was said from the gossipers. PD's main activity was to use his power to help cultivate the talent of those who were born in the jungle city with special powers. A gift that could have easily carried the wizard to the throne of the Brook. But PD wasn't a fan of the everyday spotlight, and the charismatic big black bear with the nasty flow was. I already have a slew of words lined up just for this occasion. I also have some weapons for some of our soldiers, PD said. Special weapons? Poppa Big asked. Only the best for ours, PD said with a smile growing in the corners of his mouth. Good. Come join us in the arena, Poppa Big said, as Lady Light and Diop listened in on the entire exchange. I want you with us until this war is over. Chapter break. Sahara stood in the background of the large stage, with her brother and Nilani close to her side. She could not believe how many people and humanals were locked onto Poppa Big's every word, as he smoothly worked them up into a frenzy. The entire building was pulsating with energy, as people cheered and applauded their leader with a sense of admiration Sahara hadn't seen since she last witnessed her father hold his last state assembly. Looking up into the stands, Sahara was in awe of the sea of faces that rounded the stone bleachers. Whether it was a human face, animal, or a mixture of both, they all seemed to be in attendance. Sahara did not know there was that many people in the land of the Brook, and they all approved of Poppa Big's words of togetherness and defending their land at all cost. Can you hold him for me, please? Lady Light asked with her motherly smile. Sure, Sahara answered, taking the little one off of his mother's hands. Hey little man, Sahara cooed with a big smile. Chris giggled and reached out to touch her face. Sahara moved in closer and found herself wondering, will he grow up and take on the features of his father, fur and all? Or will he remain light-skinned and furless like his mother? Poppa Big took in a deep breath and raised his paw to silence the large crowd. My people, we have been the most peaceful family in the East, always welcoming those from other lands with open arms. Now our peace is being threatened by forces that want to shatter our independence. Poppa Big blasted with a passion that ignited the crowd into a frenzy. That's right. Lady Light snapped, as she stepped forward. We must not let outside forces feel like we don't count in Musina. We do count. The crowd burst into another round of cheers. We must remain firm in our stance, and stand together. Poppa Big growled. We will be respected in Musina by any means necessary, he said, raising his right paw. The arena boomed into a thunderous applause. Sahara leaned over to Nilani. This is beautiful. Yes it is, Nilani agreed. Prince Stephen looked over to his sister and asked, do you think we will be able to build our land into this again? Sahara looked into her brother's young questioning eyes and said, of course we will, Stephen, with a seasoned queen's confidence. A steady drum roll began to echo well beyond the arena's walls, as a flow of horns and clarinets worked their way into the rhythm. Lady Light stood center stage with her eyes closed. A low hum slowly rose up deep from within the depths of her soul. Sahara was immediately struck by the power of Lady Light's voice, as she hummed, then began to sing effortlessly. The Queen's voice carried for an unbelievable length, without the help of a device to help amplify it throughout the arena. One force, one love, I hug, my people, we walk with the truth from above, the gods of song are with us till the end, let's stand together, and fight to win, let's stand together and fight to win. Papa, my people of the Brook, our time has come to defend our homeland, and represent where we from, our war drums, will sound off from here, to west north, to let them all know, you cross our threshold at a cost, I'm the big black boss, spread love with my people, and my light is the torch, she's rough on the edges, but her heart is soft, puff, excuse my cough, we in this to win, in the land of the lost. La 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 la, we are that one force, one love, I hug, my people, we walk with the truth from above, the gods of song, is with us till the end, let's stand together, and fight to win. The entire arena was rocking to one of the best performances Sahara had ever witnessed. Poppa Big and Lady Light made their flow together look so easy. As if they didn't need to practice with each other, because their rhythm came together naturally. They fed off of each other's vibe, and their audience really believed in their words of love and togetherness. Feeling overwhelmed with emotions from the beautiful scene, a tear dropped out of the side of Sahara's eye. She quickly caught it before anyone could notice it, but her little friend playing with one of her locks of hair smiling up into her face witnessed the moment. I know you saw that, but it can be our little secret, she said, smiling down into Chris's eyes. The baby giggled, and Sahara could not help but laugh with him as his mother and father continued to rock the crowd into a frenzy. The more Lady Light sang, she began to glow. With her hypnotizing melody and her skin shining brighter than the descending sun behind the valley, Sahara knew she was a part of history in the making that would always be remembered. Chapter break. What was that? An Industriarmy guard asked, as he looked over to his partner. I don't know. His partner replied. It sounded like a large crowd cheering. They eyed each other, then shrugged it off. Being stationed 100 yards into the woods wasn't very exciting duty for the two army sentries, and so far they had a quiet night on their hands. No need to ruin it. Back at the Industriarmy camp, the sudden roar that echoed throughout the land snapped Major Zor out of his deep rest. He let his eyes adjust to the darkness, then began to realize he was laying in the back of his wagon. He got up and threw some water on his face before swallowing a large gulp of the cool liquid. Taking a deep breath, the general tried to mentally prepare himself for the affairs that would need his undivided attention outside the private confines of his wagon. Zor put on his chest armor and headgear, then shouldered his sword. Stepping out the back of the wagon, the general could feel the cool breeze rolling through the valley, as the sun disappeared behind the mountains. Clouds from smoke would floated in the air, and the faint scent of meat beginning to cook traveled around the camp. Zor needed to have a word with Timmuz before he began planning his design of attack on the land of the Brook. His only concern at the moment was walking from the front of the camp, past the middle, which is where Nipoli's wagon was, and onto the back of the camp where Timmuz's wagon was stationed. The songstress has been requesting his presence ever since their encounter, but Zor had a war to prepare for. This wasn't the time to be on Timmuz's bad side. Which is what will happen when word gets out he has been spending time with Miss' favorite songbird. To avoid Nipoli, Zor simply sent a messenger to the back of the camp when a communication was needed. But things changed now that the army has finally met up with Commander Vance and his band of trackers. They returned to camp with some valuable information about the army's next target. Flanked by two assistants, Zor made his way through the bubbling camp uninterrupted, until coming across 3 women preparing the night's meal of broiled beef, over an open fire. 2 guards watched on, savoring to taste the apple spice flatbread the women had cooling in the night air, as they put their touches on the main course. Everyone saluted the general as he took a close whiff of the simmering food. "Would you like a bite to eat, General?" Della asked with a warming smile. "Yes. Can you bring it in with Timmuz?" the general requested with a slight smile. "Yes, sir." General Zor stepped up into the wagon and found his leader in his usual meditated state. Timmuz opened his eyes when he felt a presence enter the room. "Ah. Nice of you to join me, General. I was beginning to get the impression I would have to enjoy the rest of my dinners on this trip alone." "No. There are a few things we have to discuss before we embark on our target," Zor said, taking a seat on top of a stack of pillows. "Yes, I know," Timmuz said, folding his hands in thought. "I have received vibes of a heavy resistance being prepared in this land." Zor agreed. This might be true. The Brook people traditionally have been fierce defenders of their land. "Your Excellency, your meals are ready," one of the guards called out from behind the canvas. "Good. Send them in." Della and Letty brought in 2 plates of beef and apple spice bread. The wagon was silent as Della poured 2 cups of fresh water. Then the 2 women quickly left. "So what do you have to say about the state of the Brook?" Timmuz asked, before tearing into his beef. "We have made contact with Commander Vance, who was tracking King Stephen's children, and..." Timmuz cut him off. "Stephen's children are alive?" he asked with a raised eyebrow. "It appears so. And they are special guests of Poppa Big and Lady Light," Zor said, biting into his bread. The look of disgust was pasted on Timmuz's face for a few moments, before he turned his attention back to his meal. "How did they make it this far from Pakistan?" "They received some help from forest people. And it looks like they are making their way to the Kingdom of Soul," Zor said. "They are only resting in the Brook." "Good, we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone when we seize the Brook," Timmuz said with his chest full of confidence. "So, how shall we proceed?" Timmuz drifted into thought, then said, "I want you to send in a small delegation. I want to see how the Black Bear reacts to our demands." "And once he resists, we begin our attack?" Zor asked, knowing the answer already. "Yes. They will move their forces into position for battle once our delegation is on the other side of their walls," Timmuz said. "I agree. I will get right on it," Zor said. "Tonight I will summon the gods of force to guide our troops to victory," Timmuz said, as Zor finished his meal, then stood up to leave. "Thank you, sire. Our troops will be pleased to know they will have protection from the gods of force with them," Zor said, then saluted Timmuz. I'll keep you posted. The major stepped out of the wagon, causing everyone to stand at attention. Can I have some flatbread to take with me? Della smiled at the major. Of course, sir. Would you like anything else? No, a preoccupied Zor answered as he looked out across the camp. A tribal beat bounced off of the thick trees, guiding a group of villagers laughing and dancing together under the moonlight. To industrialize a land of people was a short process that took place the moments after the Industriarmy destroyed their home. Once the people were taken prisoner, everything from the food they eat, to the garments they are to wear is immediately changed. With the main focus of change being their culture and the musical sound of freedom, the people grew to love it as their own. The mission of the Industriarmy is to strip the people of their style of social and artistic expression, bringing about a mental defeat that they will never be able to come back from. By industrializing their arts, behavioral patterns, and beliefs gives Smith the ability to control them for generations, making his campaign of world dominance stronger with each mile of land he conquered. Major Zor continued to observe the spectacle 50 yards away from where he stood, thinking about those same laws of force he had grown accustomed to honoring as a soldier and commander in the army. For those few moments of watching the villagers happy in their song and dance, even though they were surrounded by their captures, made Zor wonder what it would have been like to grow up in his old family culture and traditions. Customs he was robbed of at an early age by the same army he now runs with unconditional love. Your bread, sir, Della said, handing over a wrapped basket. Huh? Oh yes, Zor snapped out of his trance and took the basket. Della gave the handsome major an inviting smile, without looking desperate. But Zor was a man with a lot of things on his mind, and it showed as he turned away from her and headed back toward the front of the camp. Della did not want to reveal her disappointment to Letty and the two guards stationed outside of Timu's wagon. So she quickly busied herself with straightening out the table that was set up next to the smoking kettles. Della strongly believed the only way she would ever be able to escape from being Timu's servant, a disgusting detail, she would have to be chosen by a man of some status within the Industriarmy. But her advances on the general always came up short. Being one of Timu's personal servants is a very demanding job. Bring me more meat. Timu shouted from his wagon. Yes, Your Excellency. Della said, with a distaste in her mouth. Hopefully the general will soon take notice of me, Della told herself, as she prepared Timu's another plate. When he gives me a chance to prove myself, I will fulfill my duties like no other woman he has been with, and always with a smile on my face. Della's private thoughts of the major saving her one day from this daily depression was what kept her going. Knowing in her heart the general will treat her better than the monster she is forced to serve meant the world to Della. She never witnessed Zor publicly disrespect a woman like the rest of his underlinings in the army, and his leader. Major. Can I have a word with you? Nipoli called out from her section of the camp, where they were roasting wild turkeys. Zor cursed himself for not paying attention to the route he was taking back to the front of the camp. Yes, he answered, and stepped over to the side. Nipoli wore a sexily fitting green silk gown, with her brown hair curling down to her shoulders. Zor was glad he had his assistants alongside of him tonight. This would put Nipoli on her best behavior. Nipoli walked over to him and looked at the basket. I would ask you, if you would like something to eat, but it looks like someone beat me to it. Yes, I've eaten already, Zor said, trying to put on an impatient front. If there is nothing else, I have work to do. Yes, there is, Nipoli said, tempted to grab the general by his powerful arm. Please join me in a private chat. Before Zor could resist the invitation, Nipoli walked away into the direction of her parked wagon. Zor looked over at his assistant, and wasn't surprised to come face to face with the typical neutral stare all the soldiers in the army give the major. The general's private life wasn't any of their business. But Zor could never be too careful in a world where even he could lose his job or his life to a scandal. I'll be right back, Zor mumbled before walking over to her wagon. Inside 3 scented candles burned out a sweet smell, shining light on the clean space. Nipoli stood next to her fluffed-up pillows toward the rear of the wagon, with her arms crossed against her large breast. Why haven't you come by to visit me? Zor felt awkward being questioned by a woman like this, and it showed as he shifted his weight from one foot to the next. I haven't had the time, he answered, sounding as nervous as he looked. I don't believe you, Nipoli said, with a pouty expression on her face. Nothing I can do about that, he quickly countered. So, if there's nothing else, I really must be going. Why are you so quick to leave? Nippoli asked, filling the gap between them. I know you can spare a few moments of your precious time for one of your biggest admirers. Zor slightly flinched when Nippoli touched the side of his face. Come on, Major. You have to know I won't hurt you, she said, slowly pushing up on him. His nose soaked in her sweet-smelling perfume. I know you won't intentionally do any bodily harm to me, but Nippoli, I told you before, I'm not comfortable with having any type of intimate relations with you. Why? She snapped, because of Big Bad Timu's? Exactly. Nippoli quickly simmered down, and put her arm around his neck. You give Timu's too much power and credit. He doesn't care about what I do, Zor. I told you that. As long as I sing for him and the people of Industriarmy, when I'm called upon, I can do whatever I want to do on my time. I don't know, Nippoli, Zor slowly whined. You don't have to know, Zor. Just trust me, she said, and kissed him softly on his lips. The couple stood suspended in their embrace for what seemed like an eternity, until Nippoli pulled back and said, Zor, a woman has a need and a want to be shown some real affection every once in a while. But, why would you want that affection from me? Because your powerful presence is irresistible, she growled, stroking his ego. Zor stared into her brown eyes and couldn't help but return her smile. Come on, Zor, give me a chance to help you enjoy our last few nights before this war begins, she said. Then she passionately kissed him again, this time pushing the bread basket out of his hand and onto the floor. Zor pulled his head back, looked into her eyes and asked, How do you know it's going to be a war? The people of the Brook have always been resistors to the industry. Their independence is very important to them and their mixed culture, Nippoli said, lightly rubbing her hand down the back of his head. So did a lot of other lands we industrialized in the past. Nippoli smiled, this is true, but none were as powerful with the gods of song in these parts, as the people of the Brook. Zor let her words sink in, as she poured on her seductive advances to a higher level. Nippoli showered him with strong wet kisses. Slowly pulling him down on top of a stack of sleeping pillows, Zor found himself lost in her powerful grip, as she pushed down and hopped on top of him. Nippoli slowly undressed herself, then the general before he had the chance to come to his senses. Not this time, she said to herself, as she smothered him with a lovemaking performance Zor would never forget. When Zor finally emerged from the back of the songstress wagon, his two assistants maintained their neutral looks, but their eyes were filled with curiosity. Nippoli was one of the most lusted after women in Industriarmy. But to come out and ask the general about the late-night visit could earn them a death sentence. The villagers ignored the major's departure, lost in the small feast of wild turkey and drink, dancing well into the night.
Hey everyone, it's author Everlazt. I want to thank you for listening to Let Me Tell You a Story podcast. Tune in for the next episode. God bless and be safe.